Good evening and welcome to another broadcast from Read Aloud Fun. I am your host this evening, Rosie the Riveter, as you can see by my costume, and by the famous We Can Do It poster. Now, as we all know, Rosie the Riveter was not an actual person. She was a model who posed for Norman Locklear's famous poster. Rosie the Riveter's character came about during World War II when the United States was putting together a campaign to get the women to come out of the homes and go into the workplace. So they were building helicopters and tanks and guns. They were on the home front taking care of what the men normally were doing, but the men were off at war. So now Rosie the Riveter has come full circle in the book Rosie Revere Engineer. Rosie Revere Engineer is the great niece of Rosie the Riveter. So this has a updated twist, but the same meaning, the same message that they were trying to get across. Now we want our young ladies to know if they can be anything they want to be. They can be engineers, doctors, lawyers. It's all possible. And it all started with Rosie Riveter. So without further ado, our book, Rosie Revere Engineer. The book is written by Andrea Beatty, and illustrated by David Roberts. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Geiger's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye. She made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser, and helium pants. The uncle she loved most was Zookeeper Fred. She had made him a hat to keep snakes off his head. From parts of a fan, some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. And if you notice, you see the signature Rosie the Riveter's red polka dot scar. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knees and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. I love it, Fred hooted. Oh, truly I do. But Rosa Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf and after that day kept her dreams to herself. And that's how I went until one autumn day, Her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great great Aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list, one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dream. That night, as Rosie lay wide eyed in bed, a darling idea crept in her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky and some hold on tight. This one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and the red streaks filled the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Hello Cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled around and around, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Then Rosa heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned around to leave, but the great great Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try. This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed." "Yes," said Great Aunt. "It crashed, that is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew." "Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy. On to the next." She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure could come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to his bed. Aunt Rose tied her red headscarf round Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. And you can see the words from the poster. We can do it. So they were making great Aunt Rose dream come true together. passing on the legacy. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos, gadgets, and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as loudly and proudly as Rosie Revere. The end. Rosie Revere, engineer. I hope you understood the lesson that you have to keep trying. You never give up. Failure only comes if you quit. Stay tuned. More Read Aloud fun to come in the upcoming weeks. Have a great evening. Bye bye for now.